going to do my
it.
best. Okay, here we
Believe
go.
in yourself.
Welcome to the Movies to Watch Before You Die podcast. My name is Gab. I am here with my co-host,
Dylan.
And today we have a very special guest, someone who is, I want to use the word ubiquitous, and I just got nervous that maybe I'm using it wrong. Can you tell me the definition of ubiquitous, please?
Are you asking me to look up the definition of the word ubiquitous
Please,
right now?
Yes, I am. I just want to make sure I'm not going to sound like an asshole.
I had no idea that ubiquitous was such a slur. No, it says present, appearing, or found everywhere, which doesn't make sense, but okay.
It doesn't? Yes, it does. He is ubiquitous with the Movies to Watch Before You Die podcast. He is a fan favorite, a celebrity of sorts on the show. We are proud to announce that this week's episode features the one, the only, KeenMachine.
Wow, greetings. Thank you. That was quite the intro, Gab. Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here.
You're welcome. And I'm sorry that there was a brief pause for the momentary lapse of judgment on whether or not to use the word ubiquitous, but I think I used it correctly.
Have you ever been called ubiquitous before, Keen?
I have never in my entire life been called ubiquitous before.
Also, I would feel neglectful if I didn't mention, I found out recently when I did another podcast, The Fandom Optimist, that KeenMachine is also the co-host of his own podcast, the Gone Fishing podcast, which is about phishing emails, scam emails. So Gone Fishing, PH Fishing, which I love. Very clever.
So cool. That's the best thing I've ever heard. I'm going to start listening.
It's quite good. The only problem is it does not have enough episodes.
It's true. We took a break for the holiday season because there was a lot of traveling involved and it just did not coordinate to work out. But we try to come out with an episode about every other week. Maybe we'll be cool enough to do every week like you guys do in the future. But right now we do about every other week. But it's fun.
It is a constant struggle to do this every week.
I just followed the podcast. I'm very excited to listen. Gone Fishing. Oh my gosh. Amazing.
Thank you. We're also on Instagram at Gone Fishing Pod. Of course, also spelled the same with a PH. So if you guys are interested, we'd be happy to have you swim on over to us.
Love it. Love it.
Okay. So I'm going to mention
enough of that.
We're talking about today. Yes, we have to get on to important things. The movie we're talking about is picked by our guest, KeenMachine. It is Weg. Oh my God. My brain just botched that so
hard. What an embarrassment.
It is Weg the Dog. Stop it. Weg the Dog from 1997. So I'm going to put you on the spot. I know you've listened, so I know you know what our segments are. Keen, what is Weg the Dog about?
What's this all been about? What am I working toward?
You think you know everything about me, don't you?
I dive at your bottom. I bloody well ought to.
Wag the Dog is a political satire that is unique because it isn't about like parties or institutions of politics. And it's not really about like interpersonal battles. It's just about this group of people, this Mr. Fix-It and his like conglomerate team that he puts together to distract the American public about a sex scandal in the White House when they have 11 or 12 days until election day. And the president is running for re-election. And their job is just to distract people long enough with a crazy something else more important than the sex scandal so they can get through the election. And then his job is complete.
Okay, let's see how accurate you were. The IMDb plot summary calls it, shortly before an election, a spin doctor and a Hollywood producer join efforts to fabricate a war in order to cover up a presidential sex scandal. So, pretty dang close.
Much more concise.
Out spin doctors. Two princes. Yeah, two princes.
They have another song too. They're a two-hit wonder. I can't remember what the other one is though.
Well, the other one is it's Little Miss Can't Be Wrong.
Yes, Little Miss Can't Be Wrong. Yes.
And I just want to shout out my mom, whose favorite song is unfortunately Two Princes by the Spin Doctors. So shout out, Mom.
Wow.
Anyway,
there you go.
That's all I do on this podcast. If you would like to buy her
flowers, you can send them to. No, I just had to work that in there. Okay.
Good job. All I do here is distract from the point. So continue.
I love it.
That's my job.
We also have some taglines here, which it had like 4 taglines. So I was like, You know what? I'm going to bring all of them. The first one is how the movie starts. Why does a dog wag its tail? Because a dog is smarter than its tail. If the tail were smarter, the tail would wag the dog, which I was like, ooh, I like it. A comedy about truth, justice, and other special effects.
Love that.
Is this life imitating art in the film that preceded the biggest news story of 1998? And lastly, a Hollywood producer, a Washington spin doctor, when they get together, they can make you believe anything, which that one's my favorite. I like that the most.
Yeah.
I do like that one. I really
Gab
like
has
the
said that
second
she
one.
doesn't really
I've never
like,
heard that one.
Which one? A comedy about truth, justice, and other special
Yeah,
effects?
I had not heard that one. I like that.
Yeah, I like that.
Gab is mostly like anti-taglines, and I think that they can be great. And I think that there's like 2 in there that are really good.
Yeah. This is the first time that I've heard a tagline and haven't been upset.
An achievement in itself. There we go.
Yeah.
So congratulations on that already. So I think we should just start digging into our opinions now, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sure.
Let's go to opinion time.
In this critic's opinion,
that's just like your opinion, man.
Well, I have a right to my opinion, and my opinion is you have no right to your opinion.
Should we have Keen, since this is your movie, should you start giving some opinions first if you feel up to it?
Sure, I will go first. I mean, obviously I picked it, so I have positive things to say. So that's a nice start. And then when you guys want to
always obvious. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but there have been times where we each picked a movie now, and I feel like we look back like I was wrong.
Yes. Oh my God, 100%.
That's fair.
Let's shout out Lizzie McGuire.
Always, Lizzie McGuire. I re-listened to part of the episode today, actually. Fun fact, while I was working. So thanks for that. Yeah, I love this movie. I think this is the 4th or 5th time I've watched this movie. I love it. I think it's really fun. Really what makes this movie is just all the little one-liners. I really think that's a big part of it. Like, there's so many lines that just are thrown out there, and you got to catch them. They go by so quickly. This whole movie is pretty fast, but if you catch those lines, they're really entertaining and really fun. And every time I watch this movie, there's different lines or different moments within the film that I didn't remember or didn't catch before. So I think that's one part about it that makes it fun for rewatchability. And it's not terribly long. Yeah, I love this movie. I think it has a great cast. I think it does a really nice job of setting the pacing of the film. And you go on this adventure with the people who are creating this adventure as they go, just kind of like off the top of their heads. And it's just really fun. I don't know what else to say. It's really fun. And maybe a little too eerily predicting or foreshadowing of like the world today that we live in.
Yeah.
The world that would come 6 months after the movie came out, I feel like it was predicted for, but I'll talk more about that later. Gab, what do you think? Because I know that you were like, I know you told me off web camera that you loved Dustin Hoffman, but what were your feelings on the actual movie?
So I want to start, just for anybody who hasn't seen the movie. I want to go into a little bit of detail about what happens. So essentially, we find out at the very beginning of the movie that the president has been accused of sexual misconduct by what seems to be a young girl, right? Like she's called
a Firefly girl.
Firefly girl. So she kind of looks like a Girl Scout, maybe a little bit older than a Girl Scout, but probably not by much, I would assume, right?
I think they imply that it's supposed to be like early high school or something. Yeah. Underage. Yeah.
Right. Underage is the point that I'm getting at.
So that's even worse.
Yeah.
I just I didn't know what a Firefly girl was, and I just tried to Google that, and like it just came up with the show Firefly Lane, and I'm like, that's helpful, Google. Thank you.
I don't think it's real. I think they just substituted Girl Scout basically, but an older version of that.
Yeah, like I don't know if you remember, there was like brownies and daisies and Girl Scouts, and then like I know the Boy Scouts have like Eagles. I don't know, whatever. But anyway, so we know she's underage, and apparently he takes her into the office behind the Oval Office, air quotes, and he's in there for 3-4 minutes, and she has claimed that he sexually assaulted her. So Robert De Niro's character is brought in to be the Mr. Fix-It, to create a distraction so they can get through the re-election, which apparently in the beginning of the movie, prior to the sex scandal being revealed, is going well for the president. So it looks like he's going to be reelected. His opponent is finding out about this sex scandal. It's going to be all over the news. How do they fix it? Robert De Niro's character links up with Dustin Hoffman's character, who is a Hollywood producer that he somehow knows or maybe doesn't know, and convinces the Hollywood producer pretty much by implying that, you've never won an Oscar, but you deserve one. You're so good. You could really do this. You could be amazing. Convinces him to help stage something, they're unsure of what yet, to distract the American public from the fact that there was a sex scandal. They know they need 11 days to get through the election. They come up with staging a fake war. They come up with staging a fake war hero. There's some kind of soldier left behind enemy lines.
Good old shoe.
Right, good old shoe. They decide to they put all this together on a soundstage. They hire actors, and they release the information a little bit at a time, and it winds up working. And so we are left with the impression that the government is kind of capable of telling us whatever we want, and even the reporters who believe that they are reporting the truth are being lied to. And so, what really stuck out to me was the idea that like this is so realistic. This could happen. And you think about how many things are in the news for 2 weeks, you know, and you can't believe it. And there's all this footage, and then you kind of never hear about it again, or it distracts you from something else that was happening, or, you know, it's just, it's phenomenal. And I think at one point, Robert De Niro says something about, well, we made them believe the Gulf War. And it was kind of like, what? wait,
I'm trying to remember. Is it the Gulf War or is it Grenada that he says like, yeah, I saw them. They blew up a fake house full of Legos, and he's like, really? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I love that.
Conrad. Like I thought Robert De Niro and Dustin Hoffman are both phenomenal. And this is like, I remember when you told us that this was going to be your pick, I was like, how have I never heard of this movie? Because I remember looking at just the IMDb, and I was like, the cast is unbelievable.
I mean, you've got Robert De Niro, you have Dustin Hoffman, you have Dennis Leary, you have Woody Harrelson,
William H. Macy shows up for a scene.
Yep, William H. Macy. Who else? I mean, it's crazy. Such a phenomenal cast.
Anne Heche.
Right.
I would like to. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
The word of the movie for me, as I kept watching it, was prescient or prescient. Am I saying that right? I just kept thinking the entire time, oh my God. You know, and obviously, I guess it's something that's always happened, you know, the spin zone and everything like that. But as the 24-hour news cycle has just become more and more of a thing, it just felt so obvious. And, you know, I watched like a little behind the scenes thing about the movie, and it was talking about how right after the movie comes out, obviously there's the Monica Lewinsky scandal. And when Monica Lewinsky was testifying, apparently they started, I can't remember where it was, but they started bombing. And I'm like, of course they did. And like, it's one of those things that you don't have to be, you know, in QAnon. The conspiracies are not that deep. It's just that they obviously manipulate us in such simple ways. And I love how often they keep looking at, you know, the obvious propaganda commercial. You don't change horses midstream. There's this terrible political commercial for the incumbent president that just keeps saying, you don't change horses midstream. And I guess it's just supposed to be that he's doing well. He's got like an 80% approval rating or something in those high numbers. So it's supposed to be the entire time like, of course, you don't change horses midstream. This guy's great.
Mm-hmm.
And they the entire time are like working so hard to do this subliminal manipulation that is so obvious to them. And I love how by the end of the movie, this like service propaganda becomes so important at some point. And like, I don't want to, you know, give full spoilers away for everything, like for how certain characters end up, but I totally saw it coming and I was like, no.
Yep. I would like to spoil what happens with the shoe, if that's okay, if we can talk about that. What do you think?
Woody Harrelson's character, good old shoe.
Yeah.
I feel like spoilers are fair game at this point.
By this point, like obviously we spoiled a lottery, but
right.
If you're in for this far, we're gonna about fully spoil things.
Yeah.
So talk about good old shoe.
So at some point, obviously they've staged a war with Albania. And the punchline is, you know, who do you know from Albania? Who's, you know, what's Albania going to do? So they staged this war with Albania. There's this whole thing where they film a little girl in a village with a kitten running, and they can't decide what type of kitten it should be. And it's phenomenal.
The president wants a white one.
Right. And the producer is demanding a calico cat, and they finally agree on the white one.
I love the one guy who's like trying to push the dog. They're like, get this dog out of here. I want a cat. It's so simple. I just want a cat.
Yeah. So I also love that, like, I'm going blank on all the characters' names. That's why I pulled up the cast list, even though I've watched this movie a million times. Winifred, like her whole like concern in this whole process is like, well, I don't think we should like pick an animal before I've had a chance to talk to the president. Like they're waging this like huge propaganda, like behind the scenes shadow warfare thing going on. And she's like, I have to call the president about what type of animal we choose for this shot. And like just stuff like that. Like her whole, anyway, it's off topic, but I just think that's so funny.
It's so funny. But anyway, they film all this stuff. They've got the American public convinced that there's a war with Albania or something going on with Albania, terrorism in Albania, whatever it is. And they stage all these different things. And then finally, it just comes out that like there's nothing happening in Albania. Like Albania is like, what do you like? No, nothing is happening. Everything is fine. So how are they going to cover this up? How are they going to fix this? They decide to stage that there was a secret mission. And one of the soldiers from the 303, which I suppose is like the name, I'm not like the best with military stuff, is like the name of the group that was.
I think it's just made up, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's like their special agent
platoon,
group,
I guess, or
yeah.
something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. He was left behind, and they're like Willie Nelson. Also, side note, is in this movie as like
I'm not sure. Was he playing Willie Nelson, or is he supposed to be some other musical producer? I'm not 100% certain.
He had a different name.
They called
his name
him
was Johnny Dean.
Yeah, I was like, why not just make him Willie Nelson? Like,
I know, that's what I thought too.
Either way.
Yeah.
So Willie Nelson is responsible for writing a song because they want to have like an anthem about the war, very much in like a We Are the World type of thing. So they need a new song, and Dustin Hoffman's, as the producer, says something about he's reliable like an old shoe. So then they're like, oh my God, that's perfect. We need a shoe. What could we do? Let's find a soldier whose last name was Shoe or Schumann. They find someone, William Schumann, I think was his name.
Mm-hmm.
And they stage him being held hostage with something written in Morse code on his shirt that says, courage, mom, which is insane. And so they're going to pretend that they are able to bring him home. And it's one of those things where they're like, we're going to release Schumann. And I guess to backtrack a little bit, the anthem comes out about, the song is called Good Old Shoe. They actually pretend that the song is from like 50 years ago,
they
right?
Make the
and
recording
they
sound a little bit old, and they're like, put this in the Library of Congress, and just like say to that guy, in the White House, like, doesn't that remind you of that old song?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the song comes out. It's like this, oh my God, it's like a sign. They start stringing shoes over the trees and making it look as though the public is all coming together to save Shoe. And they decide they're going to release Shoe the day after the election. So they line everything up so that he can be like, quote unquote, brought home right after the election. And as it turns out, when the government or the military brings them Shoe, the actual man that they've had these photos of and whatever, it turns out that he's not a soldier at all. He's a convict.
He's not from a special program. He's from a special prison.
Yes, that's what it is. And he is on all these drugs because he's got like psychological issues. Yes. And it is hilarious. And eventually, I guess they're like rushing and they try to get their plane back in time so that he'll be there for the day after election day, and the plane ends up crashing, and Shoe does not make it.
Well, wait, you're leaving some crucial information out there.
Okay, help me.
Feels ridiculous. Like, the plane crash was the one part to me that I was like, it's a bit much. But when I thought back on it, I remembered that the CIA guys at one point say, should we drop him in the country or drop him here? And their plane gets dropped in the country. And I was like, I wonder if the CIA took them down.
Oh.
But first of all, just the fact that they all survived this plane crash, I'm like, okay. But then, like, good old Shoe, who was like, he raped a nun. Like, this guy's in prison for like the worst possible things you can imagine. He goes and he's like going off with like the gas station attendant's daughter somewhere. And the gas station guy runs in with a shotgun. You hear a gunshot, and Dustin Hoffman goes, he's alive. And you hear another shotgun shot. And he goes, scratch that. No, he's dead.
This is nothing.
This is nothing is such a great line. And there's one other line that I love. Conrad keeps going. Like, they'll be like, there is no war in Albania. And he goes, of course there is. I saw it on TV. And I was like, God damn it, that's good. Like, Conrad
war's over.
Feels like such a real character. Like, I'm like, that person definitely exists. And when the CIA guys come, I love that he's like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And they ask him who he works for, and he's like, you don't want me to tell you his name. You know what I mean? I'm just like, God damn it, that feels like some real shit. And like, I feel like I sound like I've got my tinfoil hat on, but I don't mean like in like the QAnon sense, but I mean in the sense that it's like, why is it every time CNN or Fox News is talking about inflation, it's caused by workers wanting higher wages, not by corporations, getting greedy and wanting higher profits, like that type of thing. And it's just like, they tell us what to believe and we don't even realize it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love that scene that you mentioned with the CIA. That scene used to kind of throw me for a loop the like first 2 times I saw it, And I was like, this just feels, I don't know, like for me, it always felt like kind of out of place or like kind of shoved in, and it was confusing. And this last time that I watched it, especially, I was like, oh, okay, because he's really just like telling them, like, I mean, you can bust me, but like, this is what you guys do. Like, you depend on there being national security issues for your job to be relevant and for the public to depend on you for safety. And like, he's really just like,
this movie would require multiple watches.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot going on, definitely, and it's fast paced. So I really enjoyed it this time more. And I had never caught the country thing that you mentioned. Should we drop him here in the country and with the plane and like tying that together? So that's an interesting insight I had not thought about. I like that. But yeah, I just love that whole scene. And he just basically talks him out of like killing them like right there, because he's like, yeah, okay. I mean, and then they just run off to the opponent, to the senator, but still like it buys them enough time, which is, again, all they need. They're just buying time.
Just need 11 days.
They're not trying to do a permanent thing here. It's all temporary.
So the plane crash is one moment that like I was like, oh, this lost me a little bit. But you know what? Once I thought about the CIA thing, I was like, but damn it, that's a little clever too. But just the fact that like they survive and the pilots are never seen again, and I'm like, well, what happened there? But it's so not important. Like I'm like, you're definitely focusing on the wrong parts.
Yeah.
The other thing that I was like, for a second, I was like, oh, this is stupid. It's starting a montage. And this song starts, and I'm like, what is this hokey bullshit song? And then I see that they're recording, and I was like, oh shit, it's intentionally hokey. It's working. And I was like, God damn it, you got me back, movie.
It was so good.
Of course it's corny. Don't tell me it's corny.
Give me 50 secretaries right now.
Yeah.
I do love that the one scene where we have the president, you don't see his face. I don't even know if you actually, like, you maybe hear him talk in the background one time, like saying part of the speech or something, but it's that he doesn't matter. He is just, he's just a face. He is just a mouthpiece.
Yep, we don't see him. And you know, it's so funny. I read this article about, I don't know, Keen, if you ever watched Game of Thrones or if you're interested at all, but I watched this. I watched this. I read this article about Game of Thrones and why the latter seasons were so bad compared to the earlier seasons. And it's because in the earlier seasons, everything that was happening because of the tertiary characters behind the scenes. It wasn't Daenerys. It wasn't Cersei. It was like Tywin Lannister who was actually controlling things. It was the Rose family. I can't think of what the hell their name is. The Tyrells that were actually controlling things. And in the latter seasons, it just became like whatever Cersei did was the reason that this happened. And like
that makes sense.
There were
you
no
could argue
more...
that the writing just got worse once they weren't adapting off of the actual books, but
well,
same
true,
difference.
True. Yeah. But you know, it was just more like direct correlation, causation kind of thing. And I felt like what this movie did so well was show that like the president is not relevant. Like he did something and now all these other people in the background are creating something to sway how we feel, having absolutely nothing to do with this person that we're all voting on, you know?
Yeah, the president doesn't run the country. These people do. And speaking of voting, I love that there's a scene where it's like Dennis Leary, Dustin Hoffman, and a couple other characters like, oh, I don't vote. No, I don't vote. Well, why would I vote? I can't remember what it was Dennis Leary said he voted for and he got really disappointed. Do either of you remember?
It was like on like something from a cereal box or like his like favorite athlete or it was like some random like children's contest thing that he didn't get.
But it's like they don't vote, but they just determine the course of the country anyway.
Yeah.
So like why they don't need to vote.
I do want to stop and take a moment here to address something that I think every American needs to really sit down and take a moment to reflect on. And that is what a fucking phenomenal actor Dustin Hoffman is. Like, every line that he delivered was so interesting. I mean, for an over-the-top character that could have become a caricature of a Hollywood producer, a clearly Jewish Hollywood producer who believed that who struggled and had these sort of like delusions of grandeur versus like self-doubt. He was just so captivating. Every word that came out of his mouth, I was like, oh my God.
I think he and De Niro are both phenomenal in this movie. And I have to show you guys because I found out that Dustin Hoffman apparently based his performance off of a real producer, a real person, Robert Evans. And so I looked up the guy and I was like, oh my God, that's his character.
Wow.
Like if you look up Robert Evans on Google and just go to the images, it's Dustin Hoffman's character from the movie.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't subtle. You know what I mean?
That's fantastic. Wow,
Well,
I did not know that.
But I have thought of many times today, this is nothing.
Yeah.
This is nothing. You should have seen me.
We didn't even have a script. This is nothing. The plane crash, nothing.
Yep.
Every time something bad happened, Dustin Hoffman would say, "Oh, you think this is bad? This is nothing." One time, da 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 da. It's so good. So anyway, to really give my opinion here now that we've kind of explained this thing, I did tell Dylan earlier today that I was on the fence about the movie because I knew I loved Dustin Hoffman. But I wasn't sure how I felt about the movie itself. But I think after having a full day to really reflect on it and think about like how much I've been thinking about it, and also to kind of have this conversation with you guys and talk about, you know, the ins and outs of it. I think it was phenomenal. I loved it.
I am very happy to hear that. I mean, I hope the pressure of a guest didn't sway you too much, but even if it did, I'll accept it. So
no, I got no problem looking you in the face and telling you that I think your movie's garbage.
Yeah, I was like, if it sucks, I'm gonna let you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, I'll feel bad about it. Like, don't get me wrong, but like, we're gonna be like, no, not good. Oh, another line I loved. I can't remember who it was. Which character said it, but I wrote down when the fit hits the shan.
Oh,
the CIA guy.
Is it the CIA guy? It's William H. Macy.
Yep.
I fully, you know, God, with everything that's going on in like Ukraine and the videos that we saw come out on Twitter and Instagram, it just made me think of watching the fake Kirsten Dunst is playing this fake Albanian girl running with a bag of Tostitos that they were like, we'll punch in the cat later. You'll punch a cat later. But they punch in her with this white kitten running. And it's like, part of me was like, it's so over the top and ridiculous. And I'm like, but we see it every day.
Can I interrupt you? Because you left out a very crucial part. My favorite is when they punch in the cat. They're like, all right, throw in the village in the background. Oh no, we need flames. Okay, yeah, make it now. She needs to be running over a bridge. And then at the end, he goes, you know what we need? We need the Anne Frank woo woos. Give me the woo woos. And it winds up being like one of those European ambulance siren. But he keeps calling it give me the Anne Frank woo woos.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up, Dylan and Gab, because I wanted to hear specifically, Dylan, kind of your thoughts on that scene, because I know that you have like video editing background experience, and I know it's obviously
and like the speed of which it's done.
Right? Yeah, I mean it's clearly like fanatical and like over the top, and that's the point because it's satire. Yes. But I was curious to see what your thoughts were specifically on that scene because of that. So
yeah, like obviously, you know, for the scene, they need to show me them doing it quick because it's not going to be fun to watch them like, all right, give me a couple hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll have this done in 4 to 5 hours.
Like her holding the bag of Tostitos. I'm like, why is it a bag of Tostitos instead of the cat? But whatever. Like, I love that they have the kittens there. And she's like, do you want me to run with the cat? And they're like, no, run with this. Somebody says the war of the future. I think it's Conrad, who I love that his name is Conrad because he's a con man. But the war of the future is nuclear terrorism against a small group of dissidents. And I was like, fuck, it's so like I kept thinking about the war in Iraq also because I was like, oh my god, like this is how we ended up like in so much bullshit. Like I'm like, god damn it, it's too accurate. It's upsettingly accurate.
It's so honestly, I kept thinking, and you know, it's funny you brought up Ukraine. I was afraid to say that a little bit, but it did make me think about that. Where like we were being bombarded with this like wild, like kind of seemingly out of nowhere world event with all these videos, but like it was kind of like, what happened? Like what? Like now we don't really hear anything about it anymore. Like it's kind of gone away, and it really like. But the whole world came together, and everyone was like, "This for Ukraine, that for Ukraine." People had Ukrainian flags everywhere. It was like even like I was like, "Oh yeah, $5, okay, I don't know." Like yeah, you know, people in the fitness industry were doing like fundraisers for Ukraine and donate your supplies, and it was kind of like, what happened? Like what actually happened?
What's terrible is that is still actually going on, but I just mean in the sense of like the way that it spreads, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I think, and you have to look at I think especially after watching this film, like immediately after watching this film, it's like you kind of have this cynical lens of like any news or any movement of any kind, and you're just kind of like, yeah, but like is this real? Or like, you know, like who's really like deciding to push this in the story versus, you know, some other story, or like why is this being emphasized so much? And like, yeah, I mean, that's I think the ultimate goal of the film is to make you question the media, but not in a way where the media itself is demonized, which I think is an important like sub part of that. Is like it's the media itself, like the media stations are not like intentionally misleading the public in this film. Like they are saying what they believe is news. Like they're being fed things and they are spreading it, but they are not like causing the propaganda or the charade, if you will. They're propagating it, like they're a vessel, but they're not the masterminds behind it. And I think that's kind of an important subset, is like really at the end of the day, in this film at least, it's these random people that don't vote, like these very apathetic people who could not care less about politics, that are the ones orchestrating everything because it's fun or because they get money or because whatever their motivation is, but it's not a political motivation. And I think that's a fascinating part of it.
Their lives don't change.
Right.
Yeah. That's why I only listen to Alex Jones, who tells me that the water is turning the frogs gay. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I get my news from. But I promise I don't actually listen to Alex Jones. I listen to many left-wing news sources and I read many leather-bound books.
I do think that's a fun part of this film as well, is that it's not politicized. It's not it's not a left or right. It's not a Democrat Republican. It's not any specific politician versus another politician, or really even one ideology over the other kind of thing. Like, it's not about that at all. And I think that's extremely rare when you get on the genre of political films or political dramas. Is typically they pick a side just to fit in with reality. You know, it's either like a Democratic main character or a Republican main character, and the opposing side is usually the enemy of some kind, right? For your protagonist. And so I think that's what's so fun and unique about this film, is that it kind of feels, yes, dated with the technology and the quality of the film footage and whatnot, but timeless in many ways, because it's not tethered to those things or those like specific hot button cultural issues that are like driving people to a polling place at that particular point in time. So I think that's a really fun part about this film, is no one goes into this film feeling like the villain as the viewer, because they maybe don't like have some ideological alignment with the character, you know, like, and you see that in so many other things. So I think that's a really fun part of it, is it's like, and again, it's kind of pointing out like, this isn't an ideological thing, like either side or any side, to not necessarily put it on a two-party spectrum, but anyone can fall victim to this, and anyone can be the perpetuator of this. So I think that's a fun part of the film.
You're right, because anybody could watch this and feel like it really, like I said, you could be that rampant Alex Jones QAnon person. You could be like, yep, 100%. And you can be as progressive or as liberal as you want to be and also be like, yep, 100%.
Yeah.
Because it's really just about the fact that politicians manipulate the media manipulates us. And you know what? That is true. Like, it, you know, I don't mean that. I feel like you were like, this movie makes you cynical afterwards. And I was like, damn it, I went in cynical already. I'm just more cynical now.
It's like when Ames like kicks the TV or like throws the TV or whatever after the plane crash, and like, what did the TV do to you? And she's like, ruined the electoral process.
Yes, I had that written down here. I literally have, what did the television ever do to you? It destroyed the electoral process.
Yeah. She doesn't get as many fun lines, so it's nice that she gets some good ones in there.
She does a really good job, but she does not take as much of center stage. Like, I feel like her only like big moments are after the plane crash and in the CIA meeting where she's going, I'm on medication. You know what I mean?
Yeah. She's really just there to tether our main character, Conrad, to the president. I mean, like, she's kind of, you know, that is her only job, is to be an anchor so that he can make contact with the official side. Like,
she's the one who is actually associated to the president. He has no actual association to anyone or anything.
What exactly is it you do for the president again? Another great question I loved in there.
I love the way that he like is constantly telling people you can't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and throughout this movie, he is constantly saying things that he did, and then people are like, "Is that true?" And he goes, "I don't know. Is it?"
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "Is it?" Like, I'm so curious every time. I loved I think it was Dustin Hoffman's character who said this, but it's so true about like, you know, producing and editing in general, or like many professions there are that this is true about. It's like being a plumber. Do your job right and nobody should notice. When you fuck up, everything gets full of shit.
Yep.
Another Dustin Hoffman line. Our guy did bring peace, but there was no war. All the greater accomplishment.
Yes, that
Yeah.
one made me laugh out loud. I forgot about that line, and I loved it. So good. Gab, do you have a favorite? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I got upset when he goes, "There's no Academy Award for producing," and I'm like, "Best Picture goes to the producers of the movie." Like, the biggest one. But I guess it's like it's not literally called the best producing Oscar.
Right.
I digress. Gab, do you have some lines that you liked or anything like that?
I think my favorite line of the whole thing was just the constant "this is nothing." Like, I just that's the thing that stuck with me the most after watching it was Dustin Hoffman saying "this is nothing." There were so many good ones. I really loved the whole build up from sort of like one solution to that didn't work, so now we have to do this, or now they are figuring it out, so we have to do this. Like, and every time there was a problem that needed to be solved, how quickly they just like started coming up with things, like as if they were coming up with, you know, the next episode of their TV show, or, you know, something happened with an actor, so they needed to figure out what's going to happen in the scene now. And I just think the quick dialogue that happens in a political drama, you know, where it's like very quippy lines back and forth and people are walking and talking. And I just think that existed so well in this movie. And so it was just all so good. That's my very long-winded way of saying I liked all of it.
I'm so glad.
The motto of Conrad Breen: if there was a problem, I'll solve it. Check out the hook while my DJ revolving.
So I do want to blow up Dylan's spot really quick, and I'm Oh yes.
About what? Like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Oh, you don't know what I'm talking about? I figured you knew immediately. I just want to say I think the world needs to know that Dylan's middle name is Conrad.
Ah, there you go.
How important. Do you want to give out my social too? Yep.
Exposed.
Sure. Hold on, let me go. I have it written down somewhere. Yeah, that I have. Yeah, Dylan Conrad. And you know what? I think about that all the time. I know, which I don't understand why. It's such a great name.
It's mediocre at best. I literally said to my mom one day, "Why Conrad?" And she went, "I don't know. I was probably out of it."
But I feel like it wasn't a Bye Bye Birdie thing.
That's what I would have thought, because that's the only other time where the name Conrad has ever made sense to me. She did not agree with that. So,
oh wow, all right.
You know what that has nothing to do with? Wag the dog. So I'm going to keep saying things about Wag the dog that I like.
So Dylan, you haven't given your like full blown opinion yet.
I've been giving my opinion plenty.
Well, just to summarize.
To summarize, I feel like this is about no particular incident while simultaneously so accurate to reality that it was astonishing at times. So I've been bugging Giselle that she has to watch this movie too, because I haven't told her like whether I liked it or not, but I obviously liked it. Like, I thought the performances were great. I thought the writing was so well done. You know, at first I kept thinking, I was like, oh, this is very Aaron Sorkin-esque, you know, because there's a lot of very quippy writing, very talking over each other. And it turns out it's not by him, but it's by another writer who is probably, you know, even more successful. But I also loved, you know, it's rare that I feel like I noticed something from a filmmaking standpoint, and I'm proud of myself, because I feel like it's something who, if somebody is really like, you know, a director of photography type person or a cinematographer of some kind, like, it's things they would obviously notice. But I remember thinking during the moment with their fake propaganda video with the Albanian girl, that I was like, why isn't this, you know, you would want it to be handheld footage, you know what I mean? Because it's a little weird looking that it's like captured on a tripod. It makes sense for their special effects, but I love that after that, when it turns out the war is declared over and it's fake, or any moment where they're not controlling the spin anymore, I realize that it's at those moments when we go to handheld footage, when we start having these like whip zooms and pans, and like things start getting messy with the camera work, because because it's out of their control, as momentarily as it may be. And I was like, that is so cool. And I was
that
like,
is so
wow,
interesting.
I noticed.
I love that.
That's awesome. Wow. First of all, nice job, Dylan. Way to put that college degree to work.
Right.
That's amazing. I would have never known that. Thank you. I love that.
Like, I didn't notice it, I think, until I think it's literally when Craig T. Nelson as the senator comes on and says, like, the war is over. I have spoken to the Albanians. Then like everything is going to shit for them. So it's just like the camera is whipping left, right, up, down, zoom in, zoom out. You know what I mean? Obviously,
Is Senator Neil the good guy in this story? Probably.
No.
But Do we all collectively hate Senator Neal?
I'm sure Senator Neal sucks too. You don't change horses midstream, Keen. I
You're
do
so
feel
right.
like I kind of would have liked to have seen Senator Neal with just a shittier Conrad. Like I would have liked to have seen like that Senator Neal's trying to do the same thing and he's just not as powerful and not as good at it.
Yeah. So I don't want to rush, but I want to talk about the Monica Lewinsky parallels here, because actually I didn't really do any real research, as we all have come to know about me.
That's what Dylan's here for.
Exactly. Why would I do it if he's going to do it? But I assumed that this movie was made as a result of that. I didn't realize that it was 6 months prior.
I did too.
And it's
for a long
on
time.
An earlier book. Because I kept thinking, I was like, it has to be. And then it wasn't until like I realized the year I was like 97. Wait a second. It was 98. Like I was like, oh my God.
Part of the cynical side of me also thinks that maybe that's why this film wasn't as popular as it
I 100%
could have been. Is like it got
Yeah.
buried because of the similarities. Like they were like, "Ooh, we don't like this." Like you know, the ethereal we, the theys, you know,
them, yes,
the them didn't.
Let's get our tinfoil hats on, people.
Yeah, they didn't.
Honestly.
You know, it was just kind of like, too many parallels here right now. Like we don't like that. You know, we need to keep faith in the government a little better since there's obviously a lot of problems going on right now. But
I did find myself thinking, why haven't I heard of this before?
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's two other lines I want to point out before I go more into things like that. Dustin Hoffman's character saying, what's his character's name? Stanley Motz, I think it was, or something like that.
Motz, yeah.
Motz. It's the best work I've ever done in my life because it's so honest.
Yeah. That's my favorite line because, well, the precipice of like, or right before that, that's not what precipice means, but you know, anyway, he says, yeah, this is a complete fraud and it looks 100% real.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best work I've done in my entire life because it's so honest. And I love that. Yeah. That's my favorite line in the whole film from him. Yeah.
He was 57 or 62 years old, depending on the bio.
Yes.
That was the other one that I laughed out loud from that.
Yeah.
That was great.
But yeah, I actually have written down here because you brought up Monica Lewinsky. Here it was. During Monica Lewinsky's testimony, they were bombing Al-Qaeda.
Wow.
Literally during. And I'm like, that's not a coincidence. Like, I'm like,
No.
it can't be. Like, I felt like the teacher from The Incredibles. Coincidence? I think not.
Honestly.
Yeah. It's unreal. I mean, I think, the timing of that is amazing. I mean,
if you even think back to like the Trump presidency, like things like that were happening all the time, right? Like like there was a big story that we were all like, oh my God, I can't believe this is it. He's finally going to get bagged. And then it was like, but there's something else happening to distract us. And it's important and we need to see it. And
it's almost its own strategy that instead of like distracting with some other scandal, like distracting from the scandal with other news, they would just like distract from this scandal with another scandal. And it gets to the point where it's like, well, if there's a scandal every day, none of them are big enough to sink you. Like that's what we found out. I feel like that it's like, it just becomes, we just expect a scandal every day now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, God damn it. It's why I wrote down like during the CIA scene, just when they got stopped, I was like, nothing will happen to them. They're too powerful. Because it's just like, nothing's going to happen.
I love the cell phones in this movie. That is like probably the thing that's aged like the most is like the handheld technology of the time.
I was gonna say that's the only thing that dates it. The cell phones and the fact that you don't have like
in the fashion.
If this came out, I guess the fashion too, but if this came out now, there would be at least like one YouTuber that they're feeding information to or something like that.
It would be much more social
Twitter.
media based. Yeah. There's no social media in this because obviously that wasn't a thing back then. And I think that's probably the biggest change is, going from like broadcast is where people get their news to like social media. The internet is where people get their news. That's the only element missing in this is the internet.
But mainstream media is on social media now too.
Yeah. That remake would be fascinating.
This could just as easily come out today. You know what I mean? You change those two things, you give them iPhones, and it basically could have come out today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And like you said, you just kind of have like a vlogger or a like YouTuber or whatever, a podcaster. Oh my goodness. You have something like that. Yeah. Same basic thing though.
100%.
Some Alex Jones type dude. Like, that's what it would be. Because it would get just enough of the population. I don't know. I guess by that point though, you'd be declaring, you'd have a fake version of that because you wouldn't want to declare a side, like you said, because this movie really doesn't, we don't know what the president's was a Republican, a Democrat. Didn't matter.
Well, we saw stuff like that with just like Bitcoin and stuff, or like cryptocurrency, and like all the like celebrities and vloggers and all these like influencers being like, yeah, you should buy this, and
FTX
then
and Kim Kardashian,
and then like, oh well, not anymore. But like this is safe, like this like guarantee because it's through a celebrity kind of thing. Yeah,
this is safe. That's why I'm going to sell it as soon as you buy it.
Yeah, out of control.
One other thing I had written down from there, again, it was like this behind the scenes thing for like a making of. Barry Levinson, who's the director, says, "We're no longer sure where reality is fabricated. Once the lines between fact and fiction blur, we begin to become more skeptical and cynical. And that way, certain information is that's why certain information." I'm sorry, I write this very fast as the person's talking in the video. That's why sometimes it comes out shit. And that's why certain information is presented and people don't know what to believe. And that's where we're at right now. Again, this is in like 1998, he's saying it. When David, who's the writer, and I were discussing the project, it was how much you can fake. And by the time you find out it's not true, it doesn't matter. We're on to something else. So the possibilities of faking images for whatever purposes is fully possible. Will it happen? To what extent will it happen? That's the basis of WEG. And I'm like, fuck. Like, I'm like, fake news. Like, that's basically the tagline of the movie. If it came out now, would have been like, you don't know how fake news is, or something like that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
The only like cinematic or like camera work thing that I noticed as someone who does not have that background, I enjoyed the camera under the pool water moment when they're sitting around the pool at like 3 a.m. and doing all that. And then they're all talking, they're all like getting excited about branding this soldier, and the 303 and blah, blah, blah. And they're all kind of like getting like fully invested. And then we see like the camera under the water looking up at them. And I don't know if this is me just playing English teacher for a second, but I always like that that's kind of like a symbolic message of like they're deep in it, like they're fully submerged in this like fake reality that they've created. That's a good way of looking
at it, because that's what I was trying to like during that shot. I was like, there's obviously some meaning there. I'm not 100% sure what it is.
I don't know if that was intended. That's the way I interpret it, is it was like before he was like, you want me to produce your war? And like, there's a lot of hesitation and skepticism about how this can really come about. And then at that point, we've got the Fad King, and we've got I can't remember what she's called, but the other artist lady, and our main producer, and they're all just like chatting around the table, and they're all excited about it and totally submerged. And I really liked that.
There is a degree of English teacher to it, because even if, like when I was in those English classes, it is just like, you don't know if that's what the author meant or that's what the director meant, but it's like, if you can get that from it though, it has meaning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I was going to say something and it's leaving me. Gab, filibuster before we while I think of it.
Gab, have you ever, as a former actress, have you ever been told that you can never ever tell someone you've been in something?
No.
Gab was President Trump.
Yeah.
The makeup was incredible.
It was really the prosthetics that really deserve the honors. It's so funny because when Kirsten Dunst. Thank you, Kirsten Dunst. That's embarrassing. Didn't I recently say that she and Julia Stiles are the same person?
I think you said you hated the both of them or something too.
I do, yeah. Kirsten Dunst's character says
speaking of English teachers, there's a fun possessive.
Yeah, honestly. Says multiple times, so when we're done, I'm going to be able to put this on my resume, right? And that feeling of like, this is only like, now that I've gotten this job, I'm worried about my next job. Like, am I gonna be able to put this on my resume? Can I get this footage for my reel? Is somebody gonna sign off on me doing a good job? Is so true and so realistic. And no one was telling her anything, and they had her sign something, and they were like, oh, this is just like the safety protocol, just sign here. And she signs it. And finally, Robert De Niro, Conrad, says to her, you are never going to be able to tell anyone that you did this. And she is shattered because
she says, what can they do to me? Take you at your house and kill you.
Yeah.
And honestly, sometimes that is a better fate than doing a job and not being able to have it on your resume, because God damn it. I did an episode of SVU, and they told me at the very end, like 2 weeks before the episode came out, or I'm sorry, 2 weeks after the episode came out, that my scene had been cut, which is normal, and that actually allows you to be on the show again.
Okay.
But I was like, well, can I get the footage? Like, can you just send me the raw footage? Like, I'll edit it myself. I just really need this footage for my reel. And they were like, nope. And I was more upset about not having the footage than I was about me not being in the episode.
Yeah.
It was devastating.
Wow. Yeah.
But yeah, it's and obviously we don't have to spoil the ending. But it's so good. I don't know. I'm sorry that I said that. It's just, this was great. So
I'm so glad.
Let's get to some facts, maybe.
I want the truth.
Face the facts, dukes.
Facts have no place with an organized religion.
Okay.
Look at me moving this thing
Are
along.
they facts though? Dylan's
Are they real facts?
Dylan's
do I just make these numbers up each week?
Yeah. Where are you getting your sources from?
Mostly IMDb, like 80% that. So, according to IMDb, the always factual Internet Movie Database, the film gets a 7.1 out of 10. According to Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter gives it 86%, with an average rating of 7.4 out of 10, 65 fresh reviews, and 11 rotten.
Interesting.
Audience score,
That's pretty good.
76%. Average score of 3.8 out of 5.
That's actually like better than I expected. So that's kind of reassuring.
I think my toxic trait, you know that phrase, my toxic trait. I think it's when I like a movie and it doesn't have 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, I'm like, the fuck do you mean?
Nothing deserves like 100% though. At the same time, I'm like, what deserves 100%?
What's the highest movie on Rotten Tomatoes?
I think it was Paddington 2 for the longest time.
Wait, what?
I feel like I remember hearing that.
I think
Isn't
it
Toy
was the
Story
highest rated?
Isn't Toy Story also like in the top somewhere?
Yeah, there's several movies that are rated 100%, but I know that Paddington 2 was one of them.
That's so this is fake, in other words. Got it.
Well, it like 100% just means that nobody said it was shit. You know what I mean? Like a movie could be 100%, and every one of those people said like it was decent, but they just didn't give it a rotten review. I don't know. Rotten Tomatoes is obviously flawed. It doesn't matter.
Angry Tomatoes.
Angry Tomatoes, Angry Birds. We're just saying words now. The movie was nominated for 2 Academy Awards. Best Lead Actor for Dustin Hoffman, and Best Writing for an Adapted Screenplay for Hilary Hankin and David Mamet, which David Mamet, well, I'm going to talk about him right now. So the movie is written by Hilary Hankin and David Mamet, who together have written the films Roadhouse, which shocked me the most out of all of these. I don't know if you guys know that. That's just like a straight action movie. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Glenn Ross is probably David Mamet's most famous work. Which even if you don't know what movie I'm talking about, you know the scene ABC Always Be closing. The Untouchables and Hannibal. But David Mamet is a guy who's written things on Broadway and plays for decades, I think. It was directed by Barry Levinson, who definitely likes Dustin Hoffman because they've worked together 5 times, but he also directed Rain Man, Good Morning Vietnam, and The Natural. I also kept thinking, I was like, didn't he direct Men in Black? And he did not. That's Barry Sonnenfeld, but I was close.
Wow.
The movie stars Dustin Hoffman from The Graduate, Rain Man, and Kramer versus Kramer. Robert De Niro.
And Tootsie.
And Tootsie. Tootsie was on his known for and not like Kramer versus Kramer. And I'm like, he won an Oscar for Kramer versus Kramer.
Yeah, but Tootsie is delightful.
Okay. Robert De Niro from Raging Bull, Taxi Driver, The Godfather Part 2, and Dirty Grandpa. Had to put Dirty Grandpa in there. You don't remember Dirty Grandpa? I think that's him and Zac Efron.
Oh, I do. Okay.
He does what he wants now. He's been a great actor for long enough, and he's like, yeah, I just have fun now.
Yeah.
Anne Heche from Volcano, 6 Days, 7 Nights, and the famous 1998 Psycho remake. And I just want to list off some of the actors who randomly appear in this movie. Woody Harrelson, Dennis Leary, Willie Nelson, John Michael Higgins, Kirsten Dunst, David Koechner, Harlan Williams, William H. Macy, Jim Belushi, Craig T. Nelson, and John Cho as aide number 3. So I think John Cho is just like an extra in the background in one scene.
Who is that?
Harold from Harold and Kumar. He was just in the movie Searching, I think it was called. He was just in the Cowboy Bebop TV show. Lots of things. The critics' consensus: smart, well-acted, and uncomfortably prescient political satire from director Barry Levinson and an all-star cast. Had a budget of $15 million, and it grossed $64.3 million worldwide. The IMDb featured review, which I remember this time.
Yay!
Gave it a 7 out of 10. Reality overtook it. Watching in 2022, where politicians have now regularly created false issues to galvanize support, and maintained that over years has devalued the impact of this film. Most frightening is that this type of deception now works. And I think that the lesson is it always worked. We just didn't realize how well it worked previously.
Yeah.
A couple actual reviews. Roger Ebert gave the movie 4 stars out of 4.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
Roger
That's
Ebert,
our dude.
the zaddy of reviewers. I'm gonna be honest, I don't even know what that word means. But I think
it's it's better you don't know.
It's creepy how this material is absurd and convincing at the same time. Levinson, working from a smart, talky script by David Mamet and Hilary Hankin, based on the book American Hero by Larry Beinhart, deconstructs the media blitz that accompanies any modern international crisis. Even when a conflict is real and necessary, the packaging of them is invariably shallow and unquestioning. Like sports writers, war correspondents abandon any pretense of objectivity and detachment and cheerfully root for our side. Why does a dog wag its tail? Breen asks at one point. Because the dog is smarter than the tail. If the tail was smarter, it would wag the dog. In the Breenian universe, the tail is smarter, and we, dear readers, are invited to be the dogs.
Love it.
The rest of them are much shorter than that. Lucy Mull from Film.com. When the film makes the leap from plausibly outrageous to pure satire, it slips, and the logic goes with it. Marty Mapes from Movie Habit. There is one real problem that affects the whole movie, and it is the ending. Which I did not agree with. I don't know if you guys did. I like the way it ends. It sort of ends with like, all right, they did what they wanted to do and they're done. But
they probably, they probably are referring to the fate of some of our characters.
You think they're referring to that rather than the fact that they sort of just like leave at the end?
Yeah, I think they're referring to that. And I have heard from people before that they don't like that part of this movie.
Oh, I love that part of this movie.
But I think it's so necessary. I think it's
so important to
I think it's the only part, without saying explicitly what it is, I think it's the only part of the film that shows you that there are consequences for these actions.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That is the only part. They get, like, everything else they get away with. There's no repercussions. And this is the only part of the film at the very end when we see, like, but at the end of the day, like, someone does get hurt. Like, you know, like that, like people do get hurt. Like it's not a victimless act that you're committing by doing this, basically.
Yep.
So,
well, it's also a matter of there's only one sin if you're on the powerful side of things, and it's revealing the truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Moving on, Mick LaSalle from the San Francisco Chronicle. Between the laughs, there are moments that ring so true they can raise goosebumps. Edward Johnson Ott from Nouveau News Weekly. Prepare to laugh yourself silly, and let's all pray that the film is less true than it seems to be. John R. McEwen from Film Quips Online. Fun, but not very believable. Which I think we spent the last however long saying it's so believable, but whatever.
Yeah.
I wish I had as much optimism as that person had.
Honestly.
Lastly, just because I found this guy's publication too funny to not say it, and I want to say that this is from 2001, his review. James Kendrick from Q Network Film Desk. Makes the bold and cynical assertion that truth is completely unimportant. It's only what people believe to be true that matters. Okay. Lastly, I've got a couple actual facts. Why change horses midstream was originally a campaign slogan for Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War.
Well, if it's good enough for Lincoln, it's good enough for the president.
Whoever the president is. Best president since Lincoln. After this film was released, President Bill Clinton became involved in a sex scandal with Monica Lewinsky. Real-life events seem to mirror the film's plot in August of '98 when Clinton ordered bombing attacks of al-Qaeda in the Middle East after he testified and just as Lewinsky was set to testify, and later in December 1998 when his administration led a bombing raid in Iraq right before the House of Representatives was set to vote on his impeachment due to the scandal. Many political commentators and critics referenced the film, even using the term wag the dog to describe these events. Interest in the movie spiked quickly during this time. And then it was quelled by our overlords, people. Know the truth.
Politicians hate this movie.
Yes, that should be that should be the phishing email version of this.
Yep.
Yeah.
The movie your politicians and news don't want you to see. Okay. This one, again, some of these IMDb facts, I'm like, that can't be true. During the filming of the movie, director Barry Levinson, Dustin Hoffman, and Robert De Niro had an impromptu coincidental meeting at a Washington, D.C. hotel with President Bill Clinton. Clinton asked De Niro, I feel like I gotta do Clinton. So what's this movie about? De Niro looked over to Levinson, hoping that he would never answer the question. Levinson looked over to Hoffman. Hoffman, realizing there was no one else to whom to pass the buck, is quoted as saying, "So I just started to tap dance. I can't even remember what I said." I'm like, no. Again, that can't be true.
Oh my gosh.
That's funny.
I want it to be true though.
Yeah.
Robert De Niro and Dustin Hoffman took no salary up front for the movie. Which means to me that since this movie did end up grossing well compared to his budget, I'm like, I'm sure they made a killing. Like, I'm sure they made, at least a couple million each.
Yeah,
Dustin Hoffman, they both do, for sure.
Oh, I'm so sorry. My favorite line in the movie, I just remembered it, is when also all that stuff I said earlier was bullshit. My favorite line in the movie is when Dustin Hoffman is on the phone with all of the people he's getting to help him out to produce this war. And he's like, a back end? Of course there's a back end. And I just kept thinking, like, then they're like, where are they going to get this money from? And he's promising people, of course there's a back end. And I don't know. I'm sorry I interrupted.
I remember the thing that I wanted to say before.
Oh,
I love that Dustin Hoffman, he has a moment with like his secretary or whoever she is where he goes, they're explaining what they want him to do. And he finally gets it. He goes, there's no act two. It's a teaser. Oh, and he just looks at her and goes, it's a teaser. And she goes, it's a teaser. And like, they just get it because it just reminds me of so many times when I'd be working at like MLB and somebody would go, we just need a sizzle. And a sizzle is just a catch-all word for like, we just need a sizzle. And it's like a sizzle. Of course. That's it.
That's
so amazing.
Funny.
I love that.
Dustin Hoffman, to get back to actual facts, based the mannerisms and delivery for his character on, he says, his father and on the real life producer, Robert Evans, which again, if you didn't do it before when I said it, Google Robert Evans because that guy looks the same as Dustin Hoffman's character. The face of the president is never seen as he's only filmed from the back. And the cast includes 4 Academy Award winners, Robert De Niro, Dustin Hoffman, Robert Richardson, and Barry Levinson, and 4 Oscar nominees, Woody Harrelson, Willie Nelson. I'm rereading that. I'm like, what? I guess William H. Macy and Kirsten Dunst.
I loved Willie Nelson in this film. Like, he's not in it for a long amount of time, but it's fantastic. He's hilarious.
It's like a bigger part than you expect it to be, though, because he's in a lot of scenes, just like there.
Yeah.
I do
Nothing
love
rhymes with Albanian.
Yes, I was gonna say, he goes, what rhymes with Albanian? He's like, I don't know. And he just sings like Albania. And he goes, that rhymes.
Yep.
So good. Oh my God. Well, I
think,
suppose it's about that time.
Yeah, I think we can get to our verdicts. I lied, Gab, because before we go to our verdicts, we've got some mail we're going to get to first.
All right. Well, Dylan, before we get to the mail, I have something very important I need to say. KeenMachine, you are live on this episode. And so therefore, I'm talking directly to you now. So I woke up the other day. So for those of you who don't know me very well, I'm a fitness professional. So that means I usually have to be at work at like 5:30 in the morning. So I tend to drug myself around 7 p.m. so I can get enough sleep to function. So I often wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to a lot of text messages and notifications on my phone and things that happen at a reasonable hour while I'm asleep. Anyway, I woke up the other morning to a gift on Venmo from someone I didn't know.
What?
And I was like, that's weird. And then I started thinking about you and Uber. And I was like, oh my God, I'm giving out rides in India on Venmo.
Uber wasn't giving me money, Gab. I'm just saying.
Well, I thought it somehow like it was only $1. So I thought, okay, this is one of those like I'm just testing the waters kind of thing, like to make sure the it's gonna work. I don't know. You know, when like you open a bank account and they're like, we're just going to transfer $1. Like, let us know if it worked. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. You thought it was like just the pre-hacking.
Yeah. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. So I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. What am I going to do? And then I realized KeenMachine sent me $1 on Venmo to ensure that I remain, or that rather he remains my favorite listener. And you know what? I have been bought. KeenMachine for life. My favorite listener, my favorite guest, my favorite person. Dylan, you are no longer my cousin. You are now a stranger I met on the internet. KeenMachine is family to me. He is my cousin. It's official. This is
so
it.
It is known that we do take bribery.
Yes. I am very susceptible to bribes. I welcome them. It was hilarious. And then I had this really funny moment where I was like, well, do I send it back to him? Is it insulting to think that he needs his $1 back? Like, what do I do? So I have the $1 sitting in my Venmo account, kind of like as if I framed it and put it on the wall.
So at all times now you have to maintain a Venmo balance of $1.
Yes. Yeah. Because otherwise it would be a bribe. You know what I mean? Like I would be accepting. This is more of like, this is just a reminder of how much he means to me.
I'm just saying, if he sends you 599 more of those, the IRS will come after it.
That is true. I really don't want to talk about it either because it's going to be a big problem for me.
You don't want to talk about the IRS or Venmo?
I don't want to talk about my Venmo problems.
Let's
with
talk about
taxes looming around the corner.
That was all for food and meals. Let's talk about the mail.
Mail time! When you control the mail, you control information.
Mom asked me to ask you if there's any mail for us here by mistake.
What?
So first, let's go to our YouTube comments. That's where we like to start these things. And by we, I mean me. So first, we have a comment on Tremors from a boy, the other favorite listener of this show, Scotty Cameron.
Hey, Scotty.
The one who wasn't on this episode, but may someday be on a future episode. So he said about Tremors, great episode. I recommend watching the dead meat kill count for Tremors. It delves into some great behind-the-scenes content for Tremors and how the graboids were made for the film. Now, Gab, being a non-horror aficionado, have you ever even heard of dead meat or the kill count?
No, but I just assume it tells you how many people die.
Very astute, Gab. It's a YouTube channel that has like 5 million subscribers, so like at least 1 million times as many as we do. But they count kills. But what it's really become is they used to just like be like number 1, number 2. Now they give so much behind the scenes detail that I have seen this. They did do a Tremors kill count, and I honestly wish I had thought to rewatch it before we did that episode because that would have been a great idea.
Yeah.
But Scotty, you will get this since you have seen it. Bixby, which will mean nothing to Gab. On to the next comment.
Okay.
On Comet. I'm confused by this. It's Scotty Cameron says 3709. I bring it up on the Tremors email. Oh, I think this is something that he emailed me about.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to go to the email. First, we have our email from Scotty on Tremors. Hey, Dylan and Gab. Great show as always. Tremors is a fun movie. I enjoyed it so much. It was a riot. It was one of the first movies I watched during the pandemic, and it helped to take my mind off the madness by being so enjoyable to watch, which I'm surprised you hadn't seen it until then. Alas, I go on. I loved just how absurd Kevin Bacon sounded trying to sound like a redneck. My mother commented that I loved it. I thought he sounded great. Although, who am I to judge as a non-redneck? Although I often have a redneck because I burn easily. I'm very fair-skinned, as Gab knows. But
remember when you got sun poisoning?
Yeah, I remember when I got sun poisoning.
I guess you would remember. Yeah,
the air hurt.
I remember you were a real dickhead about it.
I looked like a lobster.
You did, and it was bubbly and disgusting. But honestly, like you made everybody else like I didn't have sun poisoning, and you were a real dickhead to me.
You know, I didn't feel good, and my brother would run up to me, smack me, and then run away.
Yep, I remember that. All right, continue.
Where was Scotty? My mother commented that Kevin must be at a low point in his career if he was in Tremors, because she thought he wouldn't have stooped to a film like this if he had better things going on, which I think is actually true. I think it had been that like he was like, am I really doing this movie? And you know what? It's probably one of his most famous now. It's funny because this film to me is like Vampire's Kiss, the movie we cannot stop talking about.
My favorite movie.
In the sense that it is a must-watch because of the absurdity and sheer entertainment value. They're not particularly great movies in terms of storytelling, but the level of over-the-top hijinks makes the film so fun to watch that the narrative quality doesn't matter. I think Gab disagrees with you on the sheer absurdity just by her face from what I can tell, and I disagree on the storytelling because I think it's a very fine script, but that is just my thoughts.
Yeah, I don't think the acting was not nearly fantastical enough to be compared to Vampire's Kiss.
Very few people give Nicolas Cage levels of performance. Just Nicolas Cage. And John Travolta in Face Off, which you will watch at some point. Okay. Glad you actually plan on watching Renfield in theaters. Probably you might actually see it before me because I don't get a lot of time to catch movies in theaters. I usually have to rent them or stream them. And that's what I do most of the time too. But I love going to the movies. Yes.
Is Scotty local?
No.
Like is he? I just kind of always assume everyone's where we are. Oh, okay. All right. Never mind.
That doesn't make sense, Gab.
I was gonna invite him, but you know,
if he's willing to fly to come see Renfield with us, he is welcome. We will pay for none of your lodging, but you are welcome to make your way out here.
We will give you absolutely no accommodations.
If you make your way out here, I'll pay for the ticket. The movie ticket.
The movie ticket, yeah, not the flight. Jesus Christ.
I ain't made that kind of money. Okay. Here's a snippet of moments in Assassin's Creed where Ezio says the Latin phrase that I'm not going to try again. Okay. So you have an idea of how it's pronounced. Let me pull that up.
Requiescat in pace.
Requiescat in pace.
So it's coming out a little like warbled, but it's requiescat in pace.
I couldn't hear a single part of that.
Well, then I'll probably just cut it out. No, I won't. I'm too lazy. Requiescat in pace is what they say.
It sounded like...
Yes, it was Daft Punk saying it. I pulled this from a compilation video. If the file doesn't work for some reason, you can find the compilation on YouTube. All of Ezios requiescat en paces. Now I sound smart.
Yeah, okay. We don't need to hear that.
Lastly, I did want to clear something up about my guesting on the show. I was responding to this comment in the comment mail section. I had interpreted it as an invitation to guest on the show when I heard it, so that's what my offer accepted comment was referring to. Given Dylan's reaction to the comment, that probably wasn't the case, or Dylan just forgot he made this comment. The obvious answer is going to be that I forgot I made the comment, because quite frankly, sometimes I normally am like, I don't need to re-listen to the show. One, because I feel awkward hearing myself, and two, because I'm like, I already edited the thing. You think I don't know what it says? And then I re-listen and I'm like, I said that? Like, when I do re-listen, I'm like, what the hell did we say? Me being the subtle KeenMachine shout out, eared listener, I picked up on it. I definitely would like to be a guest on the show. The film doesn't have to be Bumblebee or any film in the superhero movie genre. I'd be happy to do a more standalone and or original film not tied to a major IP that I really enjoy. I added this bit because I still have the Mask of the Phantasm in my rearview mirror and discovered that Gab is not one for superhero movies. It is your guys' podcast, so ultimately the decisions are entirely yours. If this clip doesn't work, I went back and timestamped the moment in the comment episode, which is what his comment was. I'm excited to hear KeenMachine talk about Wag the Dog. I imagine it'll be fun. Yes, the other half or third of the listeners are excited. Sincerely, Scotty.
Well, Scotty, you can Venmo me at...
So, Scotty, I did off camera go back and listen and comment, and it was us saying, like, if we ever do something with the Transformers franchise, we have to go to Scotty. And I feel so bad now that I was definitely a dick about it, because I was like, oh, for accepting, what are you talking about? And now I'm like, oh no, I'm a monster.
I'm a vampire.
I'm a vampire. Okay. So, Scotty, my bad. I formally apologize.
Sorry, Scotty.
If you leave me your Venmo, I'll send you $1. Which is apparently now just our method of doing things on this podcast.
Yeah, that's our doing business.
Yes. So if you want to send me a couple of movies that you think are a good idea, we will figure one out, whether it be Bumblebee or non-Transformers.
Yes, definitely.
Let's get to, we have one other email, and the person signed off with a different name than like the full name that is in their email. So I'm not going to read that because I don't want to be rude, which I feel like I might have done to my fat face previously. I don't want to dox people.
Well, we only have like 6 listeners, so really, like, it's fine.
Yeah, but they don't know how crazy I am, Gab. So,
true.
The subject, Tremors. Kevin Bacon is a handyman whose partner is played by Fred Ward, who plays Joe's father in Joe Dirt starring David Spade, who plays Cusco in The Emperor's New Groove alongside Pacha, who is voiced by John Goodman, who played Coach Harris in the 1984 classic Revenge of the Nerds, starring a young Robert Carradine as Lewis, who co-stars with Hilary Duff as Sam McGuire in the Lizzie McGuire movie. This has been your 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon linking Tremors to Lizzie McGuire.
Oh my God. Who said that?
I will continue. I absolutely love this movie and the sequel. Third is okay. The rest are trash, but only as the entertainment they provide. And this is definitely one I play and recommend for anyone doing a Kevin Bacon movie marathon. I do have a personal bias with this movie, as it is one near and dear to my heart. So as a movie to watch before you die, no. It is a fun and entertaining movie with some simple storytelling, likable characters, fun jokes, and well-rounded as a whole. But it is still just a cheeseball of a movie. It is like the cream of the crop from the bottom of the barrel of B-monster movies. And you know what? That's probably a good description of it.
Yeah.
I do own this in my personal DVD Blu-ray collection of 400 plus movies. Just a shout out for you still collecting physical media, because physical media will never die. I do recommend people watch, but this is not something you need to watch before you die. If you enjoyed this piece of cinema, might I recommend pairing this with Eight-Legged Freaks and Evolution. Vits.
Wow. So read the Kevin Bacon 6 degrees again.
Kevin Bacon is a handyman whose partner is played by Fred Ward, who played Joe's father in Joe Dirt starring David Spade, who played Cusco in The Emperor's New Groove alongside Pacha, who was voiced by John Goodman, who played Coach Harris in the 1984 film Revenge of the Nerds, starring a young Robert Carradine as Lewis, who co-stars with Hilary Duff as Sam McGuire in the Lizzie McGuire movie.
That is out of control. That's
Brilliant.
The best thing I've ever heard.
Brilliantly done, sir.
Wow. Thank you so much. And also, how embarrassing that we didn't even talk about the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
I feel like it's well known. Did we need to bring it up?
Well, I just feel like I didn't even think about it until this very moment. And that's on me.
Yeah, I blame both of us, but mostly you.
Yeah. I mean, I bring so much to the table already, Dylan. I can't keep carrying this podcast.
You're the only one
back.
receiving payment.
That is true. I am officially making money off of this podcast. So.
Congratulations on your money-making venture.
Thank you so much. All right. Any other mail in the mailbox?
No, I think that's about it. So we can get back to KeenMachine and find out his and our verdicts for Wag the Dog.
All right, let's do it.
Do or do not. There is no try.
The guilty will be punished.
Sentence is death.
Keen, why don't you go first?
Yeah, your movie, Keen, your verdict.
Okay, wow. My verdict is I definitely believe that this is a film to watch before you die, or a movie to watch before you die, to match the title. Yeah, I definitely think so. I love this film. I think it's something, like we said before, also that's definitely rewatchable. Rewatchable is a must. I think it's not super long. If you watch it more than one time, you're definitely going to catch things that you didn't catch the first time. I catch new things every single time I watch it, and it makes me laugh every single time. It's always funnier than I remember it is. So that's always nice.
I love a movie that rewards rewatching, and I think that this movie definitely would. I think that it is funny. I think that it is smart, and I think that it is so relevant. And you know what? It's pretty sadly always going to be relevant, and I think it's a movie to watch before you die also. Gab?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it is funny. I think it is dramatic. I think it is very interesting. I think it is relevant, and more importantly, it had me thinking all day. So I loved it. The performances were great. Dustin Hoffman for life. Protect this man at all costs. Definitely a movie to watch before you die.
I should have said, you know what, I think
happy.
of this movie, this is nothing, and I'm disappointed in myself now.
Damn it, Dylan. Well, I can't believe we did it. We agreed. All three of us.
That's so exciting.
This
I feel
you
better
are the
than I
first
expected.
guest that we have all agreed on the movie with. You're only our second guest, but still, that's really
But the
good.
first time I was like, yo, your movie sucks. So this time we are all in agreement. Fabulous movie. Keen, thank you so much for showing us this movie, for coming on the podcast, for everything you do, all the writing in, you're just such a part of our little our movie special for you die family. And so thank you for all of that.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
The little thing you made for us, I still have pinned to the top of our Instagram because it's by far the best thing. It's better than anything we've actually done.
the like preview voice, like, okay, yeah. Thank you.
It's a teaser. You made a teaser for us.
There you go.
Oh, it's a teaser.
Oh, I love that. Well, I'm glad. It was a lot of fun to make. I always enjoy your podcast every week. It's so much fun. I'm so honored that I get to be on here and talk about one of my favorite films with you. So thank you so much.
And if you want, every week you can catch Keen on the Jump on the Batwagon podcast for at least a minute. And then you can catch him on his podcast, Gone Fishing, PH Fishing, Gone Fishing. Keen, do you want to advertise any socials or anything else?
That's pretty much it. Yeah, I mean, we're on our podcast, Gone Fishing Pod, is on Instagram, and we post when we have new episodes there. And that's pretty much it. But yeah, that's all I got.
Awesome. I can't wait to listen.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope you enjoy it.
I don't know why I thought Gab was saying she can't wait to listen to this episode. And I was like, you're in it. Like, it's happening now.
I can't wait to hear what they agree on. No, this Gone Fishing thing sounds amazing. Yeah, thank you so much. Do we want to reveal next week's episode?
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, you can. Gab has already picked her next episode. So if you want to go ahead.
Yeah. So this is the result of quite a few things happening all together. I am very excited to have the pick this week. I am going on vacation on Wednesday, so I'm very much in vacation mode. I will be in Miami for 5 days. So excited. And so it was most recently Christmas, and my boyfriend and I watched National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation for the first time. He had never seen it. He loved it. And I mentioned it to Dylan, and Dylan mentioned that he had never seen the original National Lampoon's Vacation. So with all of the excitement around vacation and the fact that Dylan has never seen this movie, which feels like it should be a crime punishable by the electric chair, we are going to watch and talk about National Lampoon's Vacation.
The guilty will be punished indeed.
Watch me accidentally watch like National Treasure or something.
Yeah, honestly, I'll come to your house and kill you myself.
I definitely Googled Wag the Dog before I was like, oh God, I hope there's not another movie called Wag the Dog. Before I was like, what if we get on and there like is some random other film that's like not this at all?
The only time where that has almost occurred is when Gab picks Johnny Dangerously, and I was so close to watching Johnny English just because those movies had been switched in my mind, and she fortunately guided me away from that.
Yeah, that would have been so embarrassing.
All right, so to close this out, our guest has been the wonderful, the wickedly talented KeenMachine. You can find us at Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor. You can send us a voice message at anchor.fm/movies to watch, or Gab, you can send us an email where?
Movies to watch before you die at gmail.com. And I'd also like to point out, I think it's really weird that at the end of every episode, you tell them where to find it. Like they found us already. They listened.
Maybe they
want
to find us somewhere else. You can find us on YouTube too.
Okay, you can find me at my address, which is just kidding.
Just gonna insert a long bleep there.
You can find Dylan at Dylan Conrad, social security number.
Yes. You can find me, Dylan Conrad, at www.gotohell.com. No, don't go to hell, dear listener. I love you.
Yeah, I thought we were supposed to be nice to our listeners.
We are. We are nice to our listeners.
We are
equally.
But, yeah,
yes,
except we all know who's the favorite child here.
Scotty.
It's true.
Yeah.
I don't know. Scotty,
I know it. You know it. Everybody knows it.
Oh, all right. Well, now it's out in the open. Guys, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate all the love. Please give us your reactions, send us your opinions, and send us movie recommendations.
And of course, dear listener, keep it keen.
To go for smart bomb falling down a chimney, 2,500 missions a day, 100 days. One video of one bomb, Mr. Moss. The American people bought that war. War is show business.